I see Nora. Oh, I see so many familiar names on here.
Hey, Adrienne, how you feeling?
Hey, mm,
That good, huh?
I'm feeling I dosed myself up. So I'm just hoping I don't get it because my wife did test positive for flu A this morning.
Oh God, yeah. One of my friends just did too. It's going around really badly.
So, Adrienne, are you running this interview high on cough syrup?
Mucinex DM.
Ooh, even better.
So my brain might not function as well. That's why I'm glad I have you guys here to
I think you should mute Adrienne this time.
That'd be
yeah,
great.
I think that'd be great. Because I re-listened to the interview um yesterday just to prepare because I didn't want to.
Just
Yep, she's
practicing.
muted.
So
That's just
what
practicing. Sorry.
what's funny is that I was saying I listened to the interview yesterday, and the part that I muted her at was like a key part in a story. I forgot about that. It was like right, like it sounded like it was a dramatic pause for a second, but it was no, I muted her from this. So
That's what makes you you, Adrienne. There's
I'm just
always a
glad that
story.
everybody can have fun making fun of me,
Uh-huh.
including Sarah.
Uh-huh.
I love that she does that, though. She's
Yeah,
Hmm.
so chill.
I went back home after uni for a year. I just wrote a lot of letters trying to get onto productions. And I didn't get anywhere that way. But I mean, if you believe in the power of the universe and what you put out there, in a way, I think they led to where I am. Um, so I'll try and make the story really quick. Eventually, I applied to NYU to do a summer course in filmmaking. Um, and at the same time, I had heard that they were making Tomb Raider in England at Pinewood Studios. And I'm literally like, this proper kid with a dream story. I I heard them talking about it on Radio One. And this is back when you could in England we had a thing called 192 and you could basically call 192 and get the number for places. And so I heard them talking about it on the radio and I remember they said, oh, finally an Indiana Jones for the girls. And I loved Indiana Jones and I was like, yeah, and like it was Angelina Jolie and I was like, God, I would give anything to work on that movie. And I called up Pinewood Studios and I said, hey, I'm like an ex-film student. I just really want to work on this movie. And to be fair, I don't know who I got through or who they thought I was. And they just went, oh, hang on a second, we'll put you through to the production office. They put me through to the production office and I spoke to this lady, Marilyn, who turned out to be a wonderful lady. But at the time, it was quite serious and quite strict. And she was like, who are you? And I said, Sarah, I really want to make films. Like I'd come work on it for free. I just, any opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And she said, look, send in your CV and send in a letter. And that was it. Put the phone down, sent my CV, sent my letter talking about how I wanted to be a filmmaker. Never heard anything. Managed to get into NYU for the summer. Went off to New York. I'm in New York about 3 weeks. And I get a phone call. And Tomb Raider had called me based on the letter I'd written and my CV. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in New York. I'm in New York. Like, what do you mean Tomb Raider's calling me? It was my mom at the time that called me and said, oh my God, Tomb Raider's called you. So I basically called them up and explained where I was. And they said, look, you could come all the way back here and do an interview for this job. It was just a production assistant job and still not get the job. You're in New York. Do you really want to do that? And they said take 24 hours to think about it. So I kind of put the phone down. And then I sat there thinking, what are you doing? You don't take 24 hours to think about your dream. So I called them back up and I said, no, I'm coming home. I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going to come do the meeting. And like, thank you so much for seeing me. So I went.
So Sarah accidentally muted you. I'm fired. Sarah, can you turn on your mic? Thank you.
Did I mute me?
No, it was the host.
Oh, how long was I muted for? Like,
No,
how
it was
far back
just
do I have to go?
no.
It
You
was
just have
very
to.
traumatic. It was a very traumatic cliffhanger of you
It was
flying back
good.
to the
It's a
UK, and then
dramatic.
it was
It's a
like
it's a dramatic pause.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a trade.
it's
It's like
adding to the
after the
effect.
adverts, you're gonna
Yeah,
find it. Duh, duh, duh.
Adrienne was like, no.
But yeah, so
continue.
basically, I I went to this meeting, and this guy was sat there, and there was about 200 CVs on the table in front of him, and mine was on the top. And he just looked at me and he went, "All these people want this job," and he was like, "Why should I hire you?" And I said, like, "I really want to be a filmmaker, blah blah blah." And then he pulled up my letter, and he said, "Did you write this letter?" And I was confused. I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "You didn't plagiarize it." And I was like, "No. How would I plagiarize a letter about wanting to be a filmmaker, you know?" And this wonderful man called Patrick Clayton, he was the first AD, and he did things like Interview with a Vampire, like big movies. And, you know, I was nervous. I was, I think, 20 at the time, 21 maybe. And he said to me, he said, "I'm going to make you a deal." And I said, "Okay." He said, "If I give you this job, I want you to go around every single department and learn how to be a filmmaker so that in 15 years' time, you can hire me to be your first AD." And that was my first ever job. I walked onto the set of Tomb Raider. Thank you to like the kindness of that guy who saw someone who just really wanted to tell stories, and I did. Like every day of that shoot, I went around every department and I learned what everyone did. And I was really fortunate. Like I met a really great producer as well called Lloyd Levin, who I was incredibly nervous to talk to because he was the producer of Tomb Raider. And again, like one day he just saw me on set and he was like, he's an American guy. He was like, "Hey kid, what do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "I want to make films." He said, "Have you made any?" I said, "Not really." He said, "Okay, you have to go away and make some films." He said, "When you leave this job, go make some short films." And I went and did that. And about 2 years like obviously I left, you know, the production of Tomb Raider ended. I went away. I made a couple of short films. And about 2 years later, I went on a trip to Los Angeles, and I'd never spoken to Lloyd since the day, you know, the movie wrapped. I didn't know if he'd remembered me. And I basically posted my short films to his production office, to his secretary. And then I think I called up and I just said, "Hey, you know, Sarah Walker, I worked with Lloyd like 2-3 years ago. I don't know if you'd even remember me, but he told me if I ever made some short films to send them to him. And I'm in LA for the week." Literally the next day I got a phone call from Lloyd saying, "Hey, let's go to lunch. I watched your films and you're good." So suddenly I'm going for lunch with like the producer of Tomb Raider. And it was kind of, those were my like baby steps into the industry. And it's almost like if I'd have known how the industry worked, I wouldn't have thought that I could do that, because you're always told like this is the right way, da da da. But actually what you have to just do is make things. Like I think because I'd met Lloyd and I said, he said to me, he said, "Do you know how many kids I meet every day that want to be a filmmaker and they don't do anything about it? Or they might make like one short and then never make another." And I think I sent him 3. So each year I'd made kind of, I think it was like every year or every 8 months, I'd managed to make a little short film. And they were like so low budget, and like I edit them in my bedroom, you know, that kind of thing. And I was really lucky. They went to festivals and then they won, like some of them won a little award and stuff like that. And those 3 films got me my agent, which got me my first ever job, which the English and Irish and British people will know, on a little show called Hollyoaks. And that was how I started.